That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime is a silly, lighthearted isekai comedy that keeps its tongue planted firmly in its cheek as it toys around with the tropes of RPGs and fantasy stories. It's the kind of show where the main character's biggest concern as he's dying is making sure that his friend nukes his hard drive before any of his family sees it. The kind of show where dragons act like tsunderes and elves run hostess bars. But it's also a lot more than that. This wouldn't be the first time I've said a show has heart, and it probably won't be the last either. But in a subgenre crowded with cynical, repetitive, low-quality cash-ins, equally cynical, though often hilarious parodies, and depressing, dark subversions, That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, there's gotta be a better way to shorten that, has a refreshing air of earnestness and optimism about it that has made it one of my favorite shows to keep up with this season. If you've looked at it and written it off as yet another generic isekai series, or even given it a shot and found its laid-back pace to be a little boring, I can't exactly blame you. It's not the kind of anime that jumps out as a must-watch to either casual otaku or arty-farty rakugo enjoyers like myself, but I really do think it's one of the best of the season, up there with Zombieland Saga, Run with the Wind, Bloom Into You, and Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai, or Wascally Wabbit for short. And if you'll lend me a few moments of your time, I'd like to explain why. That's gonna necessitate a few spoilers, so if you'd prefer to just take me at my word and come back for the rest of my thoughts after you've watched the show, this is your warning. There will be one particularly spoilery bit that I'll give an extra warning for, but if you feel like you need more convincing, stick around and let me show you just how much of its power level Slime Incarnation is hiding. Damn, I am killing it with these English short names today. As the name of the show suggests, That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime is about a middle-aged Japanese guy, a 40-year-old virgin to be precise, who dies in a random knife attack and is reincarnated as a cute light blue blob of sentient flesh-eating goo with the ability to mimic the appearance and abilities of any other creature that it eats. Armed with more intelligence than your average slime, that is to say, any intelligence at all, the slime begins absorbing magic rocks and plants and gaining immense power as a result. In the cave where he wakes up, he eventually meets Veldora Tempest, an ancient and powerful storm dragon who was sealed away there long ago, trapped in a magical bubble from which he can't escape. And then they become friends, because, well, what else is either of them gonna do? Veldora gives the slime the name Ramiro Tempest, making him part of his family and, though Ramiro doesn't immediately realize it, granting him immense magical power as a named monster, a power that he later passes on to a village of goblins, becoming their protector the same way that Veldora is his, and also a pack of very, very good dogs. With no immediate way to release Veldora, Ramiro opts to absorb him instead, barrier and all, vowing to one day find a way to break his friend's seal before setting out to explore the rest of the world. Although, by making the dragon disappear, Ramiro has unwittingly tipped the balance of power in this world and created a vacuum that many other monsters and humans will soon try to fill. But, you know, he can deal with all that when he gets to it. Ramiro isn't your typical isekai protagonist by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, yeah, by the time he gets out of the cave, he's absurdly OP, but other than that, he defies convention. He's kinda lazy and extremely laid back. He's not reluctant to help others, but he doesn't really jump at every opportunity like your generic shonen brickhead either. When someone comes to him in need, he weighs the costs and benefits and usually decides to help because, you know, it's not hurting him, why not? Which is how he ends up defending a village of adorably goofy little goblins from a pack of vicious direwolves, and then becomes the leader of that pack after he decides to spare them. Oh, and did I mention they're good boys? Because they're good boys. Ramiro is neither a moral paragon, a tortured anti-hero, or, despite his wizard status before dying, a pathetic hikikomori who needs to learn a hard lesson about the real world. He's just a normal, decently nice dude who helps people when he can and gradually ends up taking on more responsibilities as a result. He's got ideals, he's a pacifist, and he clearly likes to make people happy, and from what I understand, his eventual goal is world peace, but he comes by his ambitions slowly and naturally. And as he does, the show moves along at a really pleasant, relaxing pace. The first episode mostly boils down to Ramiro hopping around in a cave, getting used to his body, and while it's it's not the most action-packed 20 minutes of anime you'll ever see in your life, there's something really fun and charming about it. It kind of reminds me of Iyashikei or healing anime like Sweetness and Lightning. But that's not to say the series is uneventful, far from it. Once Rimuru makes his way out of the cave, there's a few strong action scenes to enjoy, and the main draw of the show is definitely its sense of humor. It can be uproariously funny when it wants to be, though in a very different way from the mostly mean-spirited jabs of Konosuba. It tends to derive more humor from awkwardness and wordplay than from people being stupid or being assholes or being stupid assholes. And while I love Konosuba to death, it's nice to finally have a less raunchy, more lighthearted modern fantasy comedy to complement it. One thing that it has in common with Konosuba, though, is strong visual comedy, which is enhanced greatly by its vibrant, cartoony art style and character designs. I've said this before, but Slime Incarnation's soft colors and expressive, unique designs, particularly its pre-evolved goblins, remind me a lot of Wind Waker and, to a lesser extent, Okami. Like those games, the way that the characters in this world express themselves is just kind of inherently funny and charming on its own, but the show has plenty of great gags and jokes beyond that. My favorite so far has to be when the bored, imprisoned Rimuru plays around with his sleeping cellmate Gabuta, the only goblin who stayed goofy-looking after evolving into a hobgoblin, in increasingly elaborate ways, and then eventually leaves him literally hanging while he and his new dwarf friends are exiled. So maybe the show's humor isn't completely without bite. Because the show's character designs are relatively simple, they animate very cleanly in both action and slapstick scenes, and that gives the series a great deal of visual energy. Rimuru, in particular, is clearly a lot of fun for the animators to play around with, as he can morph into any number of shapes as needed to sell jokes, and despite not having actual eyes or a mouth, he's remarkably expressive. Slimes are a very well-worn monster archetype in anime and Japanese games, and any slime character is inevitably going to be compared to the elegant and iconic Akira Toriyama creation that serves as Dragon Quest's mascot. So it really says something that Rimuru manages to capture that same understated appeal that you expect from a slime character, while still being almost wholly distinct from his gooey brethren. Simple as he is, it's an incredible feat of character design, all things considered. Though, honestly, I'm impressed with the designs and production quality of this series across the board. It's a really good-looking show. These are the things that drew me into Slime Incarnation, and I've really been enjoying it since it first started airing, but there was one moment in episode 6 that made me realize I was watching something really special. Obviously, this is going to be more of a spoiler than anything I've said up to this point, so skip ahead to this time code if you want it to stay a surprise. Okay, so in episode 6, Rimuru has a run-in with a group of hapless adventurers who passed him as he was leaving the cave back in episode 2, as they come to investigate the forest at the behest of their guild. Accompanying them is a young woman in a mask who, to Rimiru's utter shock, is able to eat through that mask. Also, she's apparently Japanese. Maybe I should have led with that part. Now, it's not like Slime Incarnation is the first isekai anime where the protagonist runs into another character from their world. Recreators ReZero, Konosuba, and The Devil is a Part-Timer all beat it to that particular punch, but it does do something pretty cool with the idea. Shizu is from Japan, but she's not from Rimiru's time. She's from the 1940s, which was not a great time to be, well, anywhere really, but Japan especially. As a kid, Shizu was caught in an Allied air raid and saw her mother die horribly in the bombings right before she was transported to the other world by a summoner. Seeing her frail, burned body, the summoner just about left her for dead before deciding it might be worth trying to bond her body with the fire spirit Ifrit and turn her into a living weapon. So, yeah, not the best day. Young Shizu was whisked away from the Earth at the worst moment of her life and has spent who knows how long trapped in a foreign land alone doing the bidding of an apparently wicked master. In a very sweet act of kindness, though, Rimuru decides to use his slime abilities to share his memories with her and show her something beautiful to cheer her up. Fuck, god damn it, not that. This. He shows her his memories of Japan's reconstruction following the war and the growth of Tokyo's skyline into the bustling metropolis that we know today. For a girl apparently enslaved by her summoner, whose last memories of her home were what must have seemed like the end of the world, that's a pretty incredible gift. Definitive proof that even in the bleakest of moments, there is hope for peace and a brighter future. And that may just be the sentimental artsy-fartsy Rakugo watcher in me talking, but that scene blew me away. Not only is it executed beautifully, but it's a brilliant concept. The idea of using this other world as a bridge to allow someone from modern Japan to share its brightest moments with someone who only saw it at its bleakest is genius. It creates an instantaneous and powerful bond between these two characters who've just met in a way that makes narrative sense and defies cliche. It single-handedly begins to justify the somewhat hokey plot point that a fortune teller foretold that Shizu and Ramiro were destined to be together. Before this scene, I was rolling my eyes a bit at what I thought was silly wish fulfillment, but afterwards I am 100% on board this particular ship. But if we can put the romantic catharsis aside for a moment, I think this scene also exemplifies the show's two greatest strengths, which I'll speak about in slightly broader terms so that our spoiler-shy friends can come back in. A few times now, Slime Incarnation has shown a remarkable capacity for finding grounded, human moments in outlandish concepts and fantasy cliches. From an ancient and powerful dragon sealed away beneath the earth to stop his reign of terror, who just feels really lonely and wants a friend, to a nasty, scheming bureaucrat who cheats his way to the top and breaks down crying when he realizes his king let him get away with it because he believed in his potential and wanted to see him better himself. A belief that he just now snuffed out with his own awful behavior. I could find plenty more examples between the dwarves, the goblins, the elf hostesses, and Rimiru's pack of good boys, but everyone we've met so far in Slime Incarnation's world has revealed themselves to be not vastly more complex than the tropes they represent, but human, and certainly more complicated than they first appear. Even Gabuta. Well, okay, maybe not Gabuta. And all of the major characters thus far have demonstrated a very believable balance of good traits and flaws, and very human vulnerability. This is all played for mostly comedic effect, but it also feeds into what seems like the underlying point of the series, showing how, at their hearts, people from all walks of life are just people. And that means that with a bit of kindness, maybe they can overcome their differences and come together to make a better world. I don't know if Slime Incarnation handles this message flawlessly. Its allusions to World War II have thus far been a little less critical of Japan's role than they probably should be, and I wouldn't like to see it whitewash that in favor of a pacifistic message, but it's still a positive and unambiguously hopeful message that I really appreciate, especially in a world where cynicism seems increasingly to be the norm. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but in anime not aimed at kids, unironic optimism seems to be pretty scarce. If you see it at all, it's a mindset generally framed as kinda dumb, or at least unsophisticated. So it makes me happy to see a show that's well written and funny, with strong production values and great acting, that champions the idea of being nice to people, making friends, and doing what you can to make the world around you a better place, and frames the guy trying to do that as intelligent and capable. I really like Slime Incarnation's laid-back sense of humor. I like its characters, its action scenes, and its world. But it's that attitude, that positive outlook that's really making me fall in love with it. And if you give it a shot and you can roll with its slow pacing, I think it'll make you fall in love with it too. Now, Slime Incarnation doesn't have a lot in it that I'd classify as straight-up wish fulfillment, unlike a lot of isekai anime, but Rimiru's predator power is definitely something I wish I had. Unfortunately, in the real world, we can't just gain new skills by eating people, and even if we could, I'm pretty sure that's at least a misdemeanor, but luckily, we do have Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community where you can pick up just about any skill that might interest you with little to no need for cannibalism. With a Skillshare Premium membership, you'll have access to thousands of classes on everything from Photoshop to writing to cooking to, blacksmithing, apparently. That's pretty cool. Unfortunately, you won't learn much there to help you survive in a fantasy world, but if, say, you're interested in making videos like me, or maybe throwing together some AMVs, they have a number of courses in Adobe Premiere for editors of every skill level. Whatever interests you and whatever your knowledge is, Skillshare can help you improve. And the best thing is, it's affordable. An annual subscription will run you just $10 a month. But if you act now, you won't even have to pay that, since the first 500 people to sign up at skl.sh/basement3 will get their first 2 months of Skillshare Premium entirely free. So what are you waiting for? Be more like Ramiro and start absorbing new knowledge today at skl.sh/basement3. Link in the doobly-doo. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite isekai anime is. As for mine, I think I'll be putting together a list of my own sometime soon, so if you want to see that, make sure you click that subscribe button, and if you feel like it, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit the like button next to it too. Apologies if this video sounds a little weird. I'm on vacation right now and my recording environment is far from the best, but I hope you still had a good time watching this. Tune in Tuesday when I'll be putting out a tribute to the late great Stan Lee. I'm Geoff Thew, professional shitbag, signing out from my mother's basement.